Alrighty, what is quacking, everybody? So, Core Keeper, I went through and I played through the entire game, and it is phenomenal. I played in its early access last year, or a little bit earlier last year, and I enjoyed it. I played with some friends, but unfortunately, I was too busy, so I didn't get to really like do much. And all of my friends just kept like, playing the game. Obviously, they're not going to stop playing the game just because one person's busy. So I didn't really get too much into it. But this, past week, I was like, oh, at least I thought I said, oh, we should play some Core Keeper. My girlfriend insists that she said we should play some Core Keeper, and I'm like, no, I thought I said it, but I digress. One of us said let's play some Core Keeper, so we went through and grinded out Core Keeper, and I used that as my procrastination to not do my coding homework. But Core Keeper is a fantastic game. It is everything that I want in a survival RPG game. It's got a lot of things you can craft. It's got a great world to explore. It's got skill trees that are absolutely amazing. You have multiple bosses that you can fight, multiple enemies that you can fight, and it's all nice. I feel like I have this nice, healthy amount of things in the game. They could do with more things, but the way they present it is really good. There are some things I don't like about the game, obviously, but for the most part, this game is absolutely fantastic and well worth the time and investment that I just spent the last week playing and just going through all the bosses in the entire game. Now, one of the big things I like in my games, I like skill trees, and this game has skill trees. You have a plethora of skills. You got your stereotypical skills. There's a farming skill, cooking skill, fishing skill, there's a durability skill, then you have your multiple fighting skills like melee, range, magic, summonings, and explosions. You also have a mining skill as well, so you got a good variety of skills. And there's 8 skills per tree, and they do a lot of different things, and you can diverge your skills into many different ways. However, the thing that I dislike the most about the skill tree system is you cannot divert your points. I can't put a couple points into one thing and a couple points into the other thing and then open up the tier below me. You have to commit to each skill and max it out at 5, and then you can move on to the next one. The game does, however, reward you. If you max out your skill and get it to 100, you get an extra 5 points. But you're still missing out on like one skill, depending on how you set your skill tree up. You're still missing out on like one skill, basically. So that's one of the downsides of the skill trees. You can't diverge your points and, have some here, have some there, and, do with that. I do like, however, though, it does promote you where if you're doing something for farming or something like that, like just regular basic farming, you can build for that. But you can also divert your skills into, your combat. So like with gardening and fishing, for example, fishing has a skill where at the end of the skill tree, you can either invest into more fish farming or you can turn your fish skill into range damage. And I think that's very cool that they're turning skills that wouldn't be useful in combat, but they can be useful in combat if you invest in it. So you kind of have these options where you're just like, all right, what am I going to focus on at this moment of the game? Let me reinvest into my skill tree real quick so it's more optimal for my farming methods. And then, oh, I'm going to go farm some bosses now. Let me reinvest my skills into combat. So I think that's very cool. The one biggest gripe, like I said, is you can't just divert your skill points into different things, like give yourself a little bit of this and that, and it's especially punishing in the crafting tree when you're trying to craft with like armor and stuff like that. I wish you could divert those skill points a little bit more because it'd be useful when you're crafting a bunch of different things instead of just like, all right, I'm gonna focus on crafting these things, reset my skill tree, craft these things. So that's the only issue I really have with the skill trees. But otherwise, the skills are amazing, and I like what they did with the skill tree, turning certain skills into either combat oriented or farm oriented skills, and it's very nice. And then to further implement the build crafting, you have armor, weapons, offhands, backpacks, rings, and necklaces. And those things can change how you play the game entirely. My preferred way that I was enjoying combat was summoning minions. So I would summon minions and I got armor specific for minion summoning. However, there's multiple armor sets for minion summoning. There's also multiple rings, necklaces, and offhands that you can use when summoning minions as well. So you really have a dilemma with what you want to go for and what you want to invest in. And they also have armor set bonuses in the game as well. So I have, I got the Anubis, or the sand armor set. It looks like Anubis, but I got that armor set, which when I summon things, when they're about to despawn, they explode. But I didn't like that very much because sometimes I'd accidentally summon something in my base and it would blow up my buildings, but that's a me issue. But there's tons of different options where if you want to summon things, you have a couple different options. If you want to be a mage, you have a couple different options with the arcane mage armor, or the arcane monk armor, or the sorcerer mage armor, whatever it was called. So different ways to do magic. You have just different, regular armor for just regular melee combat and stuff like that. And you also have armor that gives you set bonuses for stuff like fishing and mining and all those other things as well, farming. So again, you have that in-depth build crafting where you're like, all right, I'm gonna focus on my farming skill. Let me make sure I have my petal ring. I believe there was also a necklace as well. I don't think I got the necklace, but there was a necklace as well. And there's a farming hat, and you put those on. And then when I was fishing, I had my diving gear on. So that was good, just stacking up all these armors in this RPG aspect in my build crafting era. And that is one of the biggest things that I love in games is build crafting. That's why I love Warframe so much, because it's just like I get to look at my armor, I get to look at my skill tree, and just put those two together, figure out how I want to play the game, and it is very nice. There's also pets in the game. They're not too impactful, but they are very useful. Your pets can work wonders, and your pets can get very strong and just like start like one-shotting like regular enemies and stuff like that. They help with boss fights. So pets are like pretty goated as well, and pets have their own skill tree too, and you can just level up the different pets and stuff like that. And that's like a nice little aspect to the game, is getting the different pets, and the pets are absolutely adorable. There's like this sheep thing that I got, and it's more towards the end of the game. You won't get it until you like get towards the outer edge of the world and one of the biomes out there, and it's very cute. A lot of the pets are just very cute and helpful when running around. Now, the progression in this game is something that is very intuitive and good and nice. I don't feel restricted. It sets you on a path. You start off by killing some bosses, or you can start off by killing some bosses. What me and my girlfriend did is we just got super overpowered before we started killing bosses. There's 4 early game bosses, and then there's a bunch of late game bosses, and then there's the final boss as well. But once you beat the final boss, you just go back in and you can just reload your world up, and you're good. You just keep playing. It's kind of an endless thing, but it has like a main story that you follow. And the boss variety and the different armor sets they drop and the items that they drop, it's very good when you're target farming certain things that drop from them, and it's very intuitive that way. And just going around, just progressing the world how you want to progress it. I will say though, with the armor stuff and getting certain materials, it can be a hindrance. Like the diving armor, for example, you can't get the helmet until you clear the first 3 bosses, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. And it's the same thing with the mining armor as well. If you do not, once you kill the first 3 main bosses and get their souls, then you can go get the mining armor as well. But it's kind of hard to get some of these end game armors, or armors that would be really useful in the first place early on, because you're just so weak. So my point being with this is just the progression is very nice. It's kind of up to you what you want to do. If you want to farm up and get ready to murder these bosses, you can do that. That's absolutely what I did. I farmed up to kill these bosses, and it was pretty nice. It did make the boss fights kind of trivial for the most part, but at the end of the day, it's how I wanted to play. I didn't rush the bosses or do anything. You do get value out of getting their souls early though, so if you do kill them early, you get some good stuff, so you get rewarded for killing them, and that's a good thing. And just having this huge freedom to be like, all right, I'm gonna kill all these bosses, then unlock the world. Killing the first 3 bosses isn't that big of a deal. Only took me a couple hours, build up, and then just killed all 3 bosses and just opened up the rest of the world and then explored. There is like boss orders though that you have to kill things in, especially the final 3 bosses before the final boss. You have to kill them in a very specific order, which does kind of put a little bit damper on the kind of do it your own way. But how those boss fights are set up, I understand why they did that with the boss fights, which is kind of cool, and it just makes the boss fights harder as you keep going through them one by one. But the boss fights are very cool and unique as well. They have their own like arenas and areas that you fight them in. And some of them are traveling around the world, so you don't really have an arena to fight them. You just need to like side swipe them and pray that you're in a good spot. Like one of the enemies, or two of them, are in the water. And the only way to get them out of the water is, you got to use the items. So I got one, had to fight one on my boat, and the other one I had to fight on a small island in the ocean area, and that was kind of a pain. But like that's what made it fun and interesting in those boss fights, is like you're not just, oh, I'm just on the ground swinging my sword shooting and whatever. Like, no, you got to adapt to your environment and fight these bosses, and every boss fight felt unique and dynamic in a bunch of different ways, and that's what I love the most about the boss fights. I would say my biggest gripe with the world, though, is the inner biomes and outer biomes are fine. There's two other biomes on the outside, the crystal and the passage, and they're both just rings. However, the crystal biome is the one that I have the most issue with because it's just a very thin ring, and you kind of have to just keep following it around in a circle, and it really takes a long time to explore. And on top of exploring it, it's kind of annoying when there's a bunch of the radiation crystals around and you have nothing stopping you from taking radiation damage. And the thing that will help you is in the crystal biome to get the guy to sell you the radiation immune armor, but you have to find the alien trials to get it, and it's really hard to find them. And especially because it's in a ring, I was not lucky, and it took me a very long time to find it. I went like a quarter of the world around. I went from like the bottom of the ocean biome to the wilderness biome, and then I finally found one. So that's my biggest issue, is just that very thin ring. I know the crystal biome has little dots and splotches in the desert biome, but like that's not really a good substitute for just that like thin ring, because sometimes I'd either mine out of it or I just end up on the passage side, and just it's a very thin biome, and that was like my only annoying part with that biome, is just how thin it was. However, another thing about this game that is absolutely fantastic is the scenes. They have individual scenes that you can find throughout the world, and it kind of just tells the story of this world with visuals. You get some hints when doing the main story, talking to the core, and then completing the story and everything, getting the whole spectrum of what the world is, but you get to see the different scenes and running around through the different parts of the world, and getting like visual storytelling. And I think that's very cool and unique about the game, is just the different visual storytellings in the different areas that you can find. I think that's just super cool. I do also like the different modes of transportation that you have around this game. It's not just like a typical, walking around, stuff like that. There's an area, the sunken sea, where you can just drive around in your boat. There's the desert where you can drive around in a go-kart. And what's cool about that is you can find go-kart tracks just laying around. So just finding those little scenes and like enjoying driving around on the go-kart tracks and stuff like that. Very cool, very fun. All those different little things that you can find around the world. I absolutely enjoyed those things. And to accompany your exploration through this world is the amazing music. This music is so good. It slaps. It's probably the background music of this video. It is so good. It's like nice and peaceful, and just hearing the different tracks as you transition between the different biomes really accompany the biomes. Like, I enjoyed the Sunken Sea soundtrack so much, just driving around on my boat, fishing, listening to the music, walking around the tunnels, walking around the desert, just anywhere. The music feels so fitting and so nice. Like, it's calming, but it's not like, anything crazy. It's just so good. The music is just nice and amazing, and the gameplay overall is just absolutely smooth. Fighting things feels very intuitive. Just kind of having the auto sort from your inventory, moving things to your chest, very good. There are some downsides to it, which I feel like is more like a player thing maybe, or like it might be a multiplayer issue as well, where like I have my fishing pole, and if it detects another fishing pole I believe of the same rarity in another chest, and there's open spots, it's going to put your fishing pole in that chest. If you don't want your fishing pole to go in that chest, stay out of the range, I guess. So that was kind of annoying when I would just like get back from doing like a large fishing session or exploring session. I got a bunch of, stuff to smelt, and then I would just auto sort everything, and then I would lose all my health potions and stuff, and I have to run back to the chests. And like, there's just so many things in this game that you're gonna have a lot of, like, I have a storage room specifically for different things. Like, there's just so many decorations and all these different things. So you have all these different chests, and like cooking isn't like this crazy thing. You just put 2 and 2 and it makes a meal. However, there's so many different recipes in the game. I have like, I want to say 6 or 8, somewhere in that range, chests full of food that we've cooked throughout our entire playthrough. Like, you're gonna have chests full of things this entire time you're playing the game. And that is one thing they should definitely add to the crafting table, is a big chest. You can only get big chests by killing bosses, unless I'm dumb and I didn't see the crafting big chest, but you can only get big chests by killing bosses, which is annoying. Otherwise, you can only craft tiny chests. So if they let us craft big chests, that would be fantastic. They should definitely add that as a crafting option. I don't know if they will, but that was one of the biggest things, is like I needed bigger chests, and especially early on, having like a big chest helps with sorting and keeping things organized. But yeah, I have multiple chests full of weapons, and don't really need multiple. You only really need like 1 of everything or 2 of everything, or however many people you're playing with. But I got lazy, and I wasn't scrapping things. That's a nice mechanic, is you got extra stuff, you can just scrap it, get some material back, get some ingots or whatever, and all that good stuff. But yeah, overall, Core Keeper, a very great experience. It is a very fun game, fun little survival RPG. I believe they're still going to be updating it. Like, it only came out last year. They're still doing updates for it, giving us different things. So I definitely look forward to more bosses and more of those things. I think one thing they definitely should add is kind of like a Horde Coliseum type thing. They already have something like that in the game. It's like a alien trial chamber or whatever, and you have to stand in this circle and you can't leave it, and you have to survive the whole time. And that's cool. I think they should add more of those, because by the time I was at the end of the game, I was absolutely busted. I'm having a bunch of minions around me while I'm killing things with my crossbow. Like, I'm murdering things. So having something more Coliseum oriented base would be very cool. Even on, like, it doesn't matter what difficulty, like trying to solo the bosses can also be very difficult if you're not properly prepared for the most part. But it does get easier as you get your builds. Like, once you get like really built, the core commander wasn't, that hard with all of, my armor and everything and being fully built. I do remember, though, I died to the core commander because I was focused on damage and everything. I didn't have my pickaxe and my hotbar, and he did this thunder attack, and the exit was in a wall, and I didn't have a mine, and I got made fun of, and I was mad that I died because I was stuck in lightning, and my only exit was blocked by a wall. So there's just some unfortunalities there, but overall, I hope there's more like trials and stuff like that. Like, I want more bosses, but I also want something more trials, like the Coliseum from RuneScape type deal, something like that, just like a wave base thing. And also maybe some more merchants as well that, help me get stuff easier. A lot of the things that you can accomplish in the game, you have to go through hell to get some of them, like trying to get the guy to sell who sells the anti-nuclear armor. Getting that alien guy, it was so hard trying to explore around and find the little alien tech arena to get it. So there's that. But yeah, I look forward to everything else in this game. This game is very fun and fantastic, and I look forward to coming back to this game in the future with more updates. Anyways, if you sat through this entire video, thank you, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.